The NFL season is over, but Dynasty season has just begun. And on today's episode of the Regression to the Mean podcast, we have our 3 priority February buys heading into Dynasty startup drafts over the coming months. I am your host, Shaun Moran, and I am joined by my co-hosts, good friends, and knowers of ball, Aidan Haller and Keegan Thompson. Aidan, how we living, man?
I am doing well, Shaun. The Chicago Bears are officially on the clock. We are in the offseason officially. The NFL season has concluded, and we are moving on. And that means we've got some more buys, we've got some more sells, and I'm excited to dive in, quite frankly, Shaun.
Oh, the season ended? I didn't know it ended.
Yeah, it was just just another game. Nothing too big.
They played a game? They played a game last Sunday?
Yeah, they had. There was a bit of a game. There was a bit of a bit of a game.
Yeah, that's good to know. Oh, maybe that's why I'm dead inside. I haven't felt an emotion in close to a full week. Keegan, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. I'm excited to participate in this version of the buy sell episode. Seems like I missed out on some good YouTube comment engagement with the last episode. So hopefully we get a sell or a buy today that just ruffles the feathers of our YouTube commenters again.
I
love it. Yeah, they weren't happy, but then Pat Mahomes has that miracle playoff run, and now everyone's saying to sell Mahomes. You were just ahead of the curve, Aidan. You were just ahead of the curve.
Some would say that Aidan knows ball.
Yeah.
Never wrong, just early. Never wrong, early.
Just early.
Keegan alluded to it. Today's episode is a follow-up to our January buys and sells series where Aidan and I talk through our favorite buys and sells immediately following the 2023 fantasy regular season. If you haven't had a chance yet to listen or watch those episodes, go ahead. They are in our podcast feed. They're on our YouTube channel. Check them out. We talked about some very important players heading into the 2024 offseason. But the reason we're back doing another round of buys and sells is because Sleeper's Dynasty ADP, we're seeing a lot more movement. And with a lot of ADP movement means the market is changing. And with the market changing, there are players that we think are overvalued and undervalued that are worth either drafting at cost or avoiding at cost in a Dynasty startup. Before we dive into the episode, if you are a part of the 70% of the people who are watching this video but have not yet subscribed to our channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Subscribing to this channel is the number way you can support us and the Regression to the Mean podcast. Secondly, we want to thank all of you, the Mean team, for helping us get to 1,000 subscribers. That's last week. That happened. So thank you, everybody. We make this content right now as a passion project. We would love to do this full time as something we do in the future. It's going to take a while to get there, but we are going to keep going one step at a time, one subscriber at a time. So thank you to the Regression to the Mean family, the Mean team. We do it for you. So thank you for joining us once or twice a week to talk ball with us, talk fantasy. You guys are the best. All right, boys. Ready to dive in?
Let's get in there.
All right, Aidan. Who are you buying?
So I'll be honest, this is not where I expected to go. But the more I looked into this, the more I realized I owed someone an apology. And that's Najee Harris. I'm buying Najee Harris. I've said a lot of mean things about Najee, and it's not warranted. Just taking a look at Najee Harris. The guy's still 20.
It was warranted. No, it was warranted.
So Najee is still just 26 years old. He's about to turn 26. So happy early birthday, Najee. On Sleeper ADP right now, he's the running back 17 in startup draft. So right around 74 overall. Keep trade cut, he's the running back 24. And looking at last year's numbers, I'm just having trouble wrapping my head around why he is so cheap. He's just too cheap. Just peeling back the onion here.
He's too cheap.
He's too cheap. Last year, man, as a rusher, had his best year in the NFL. In year 3, 1,035 yards, 8 touchdowns, eclipsed 4 yards per carry, the first time of his NFL career. A couple stats that absolutely blew my mind, though. The guy was 3rd in the league in yards after contact, behind only CMC and Derrick Henry, 2nd in broken tackles, behind Travis Etienne. And everyone's like, he's slow. He's just 3-4 yards a carry. He was 11th in the league in 10-plus yard runs, 4th in the league in 20-plus yard runs. He had a fantastic season and is now getting Arthur Smith, who deployed the 4th heaviest run game offense in the NFL. I don't know. There's kind of a lot to like here, and you can make the Jaylen Warren argument. Najee Harris's passing kind of, ability or catching abilities per se have gone down since his rookie season. We thought maybe he was going to be a better pass catcher in the NFL, and I think that's okay. Arthur Smith is going to use both of those backs a ton. Najee Harris has never missed a game in his NFL career. He's been banged up here and there, but the guy's durable. He's pretty sturdy, coming off a really good year, and he's cheap. So I don't know. I was so wrong on him. The more I looked into it today, it got me pretty excited. I'm not going to lie, guys.
Jaylen Warren's baked in. Everything's baked in with Najee. I don't think his upside's baked in. What is Arthur Smith going to do? Give the ball to Najee Harris? Isn't it right? All the Jaylen Warren truthers, right? That's like you give it to the guy who's supposedly not as good. I feel like Najee Harris is going to do really well in that offensive scheme. And if you're getting him at cost right now, I'm in. The issue with Najee 3 years ago is you had to pay up. You had to get drafted him in the first round because the man caught 90 balls because of Big Ben.
Yeah. And he was a first round draft pick in his second year in the NFL, like in fantasy terms.
Aidan and I know.
It was a massive landmine.
Aidan and I know. Anyone that drafted him his sophomore season, he had the plate and he had the plate in his foot. He hurt his foot in training camp. It was just kind of a nightmare season. He comes out last year, looks a lot more explosive. He's highly durable, and I like it in Arthur Smith's offense. I never thought I'd be a pro Najee guy, but I'm here. I like him at cost.
The price is right. The price
startup right.
Yeah, the price is right. You can get him 74th. Yeah, that's like the 6th round, 7th round, depending on how many teams are in your league.
We're buying Najee Harris at ADP. We're into it. Who are you buying at ADP?
Today, Sharks, I'd like to talk to you about a 22-year-old wide receiver who will be just 23 years old entering into the 2024 season, and has been extremely underutilized in his career, and yet his underlying metrics key in on him being an elite wide receiver. And today, I'm here to talk to you about Drake London. To me, Drake London
sound like you're from London.
To me, like, he's still pretty, like, his value's still really good right now. I think people are still seeing like Drake London as a good asset, but it's not as high as I think he should be or can be. His current sleeper ADP overall is 43. He's the 16th wide receiver off the board, according to Sleeper ADP. And in terms of keep, trade, cut, he's about, what is he? I'm looking at it right now. He's 38 overall. So he's still like very highly touted by the Dynasty community, but I still feel like that's too low. Like, let's just take a look at some of the wide receivers that are around him. Some above him include Nico Collins. Some below him include Jordan Addison, Devonta Smith, DJ Moore, Rashee Rice. So he's kind of grouped into this very interesting place. But when we did our top 12 Dynasty wide receiver rankings, not a single one of us put Drake London in our top 12. I think right now that's exactly why he should be a buy for Dynasty owners. The Arthur Smith nightmare is gone. It's no longer Arthur Smith's show in Atlanta. You get new head coach Raheem Morris, and then also Zach Robinson's being brought over to be the next OC for the Falcons. When Raheem Morris was asked, like, what excites you about the Falcons? You're like looking at your players. You said, well, that's easy. Two things: Drake London, Bijan Robinson. And they both, Zach and Raheem, have highlighted Drake, Pitts, and Bijan as just absolute weapons. And we know they were underutilized. I mean, so far in his career, Drake's unfortunately not touted 1,000-yard receiving season. He's only had 6 touchdowns, and I think his expected touchdown rate over 2 years is about 15. So he's definitely underperforming. Had 72 receptions in 2022, 69 receptions in 2023, but the underlying metrics for 2023 were great. Like, outside of his normal stats, 87% route participation, 22% targets per route run, 23% target share, 31% air yard share. When he was a rookie, he's one of 4 rookie wide receivers ever to have a 23% target share and a 2 flat yards per route run. All the underlying metrics are great. He's like a 90th percentile college athlete, like, coming out. To me, Drake London is what I think personally valued as like a mid, like anything 106 in the first round and below is where I think Drake London's like totally fair value. And you could probably get him for an early second, because I bet people are just burned by Drake London at this point.
I have Drake London in a Dynasty league, and you would have to do the jaws of life to get him out of my hands. I think like anyone that's held on to him is probably... They're not going to give up. They made it through the Arthur years, you know.
I know, but there's one last step, which is why I suggest the buy now, because there's one last step to complete the window so we can fully glaze Drake London's 2024 outlook, and it's they need a quarterback. So go get Drake before you know what their quarterback situation is.
I need it. I need Drake May or Jaden to land with the Falcons. I think that would be.
I think they're going to trade up.
Incredible. I think one of them will fall to him. Did you see Lance Zerloin's latest mock that Drake May's a faller?
Aren't they at 8?
Like, I guess there people are saying that Drake may fall. I'm not going to say he may fall. That's hilarious.
I'd be shocked if
I hope not.
Now, but they're all going top 5.
There's a lot of JJ buzz. They could get JJ at 8 if they wanted to. Like, I feel like they're going to be able to get a quarterback.
If they get JJ,
and they could get one through free agency too. They have a lot of money to mess with as well too. They can get a free agency quarterback as well too. Like, they have a couple options here, but this is, I think, my last window to buy somebody like Drake London, because once they have a quarterback situation figured out, I do agree, Shaun. Like, you're going to have to like try and pry him from their owners like dead cold hands. It just won't happen. So you have one last window. I think to buy him before Arthur got fired would have been really, really smart, but you have another opportunity where I still think you can get a discount on him.
I think with Drake London too is, I think most people know that Drake London's a good receiver, but I think there is a level to Drake London that we don't even know exists, like a 1,300 yard, 10 touchdown receiver. Like, he might be that special of a talent, and we just don't know because of how poor of the quarterback play it's been in a season. Like, since 2018, like, PFF has given rookie grades, PFF grades or whatever, but they're pretty correlated to success, especially rookie year. There have only been a handful of receivers to clear an 85 plus PFF grade. In 2019, it was Terry McLaurin. In 2020, it was Justin Jefferson. In 2021, it was Jamar Chase. In 2022, it was Garrett Wilson and Drake London. And in 2023, Puka Nacua and Rashee Rice. So that's like an elite collection of talent. Obviously, Drake London, Garrett Wilson, we haven't seen him get there quite yet. But what I think is funny is Drake London might be on par or better than Garrett Wilson, but his quarterback play might actually have been worse. The play calling quarterback play might have been worse than what Garrett Wilson was experiencing, which sounds kind of sacrilege to say, but he might be that good. He really might.
Yeah, the time to buy is now. I think he's pretty accurately priced, but I think like before the QB situation unfolds itself and the offense absolutely takes off, I think is kind of your last time to buy. So I get behind that, Keegan. I like it.
You guys have got a first contract running back. You've got a year 3 underperforming wide receiver, and my guy is a future Hall of Famer.
Oh God.
I've got a 32-year-old wide receiver that played in one of the worst offenses in football when rookie Aidan O'Connell was his quarterback, and that is none other than Davante Adams, the current wide receiver 29 on Keep Trade Cut, and the current 65th pick off the board in Sleeper's Superflex ADP. I didn't think I was going to go down this route. I haven't drafted Davante in a couple years, and I haven't been super pro Davante, even though he's obviously a Hall of Famer. But at the age of 31, Davante put together kind of an under-the-radar massive fantasy season. He finished second in the league in targets, 10th in total PPR points, and he was actually second in the NFL in expected fantasy points. Poor quarterback play really sunk him, but he was second in expected fantasy points, which is huge at an age 31 season. And what's crazy about that is the fact that this season was technically a letdown for anyone that drafted him or had him the year before, because the year before he had 330 fantasy points, which just seems insane. And when you look at it in terms of historical context, like in 2022, Davante Adams became the 15th wide receiver to clear 300 PPR fantasy points at the age of 30 or older. Of those 15 wide receivers, only 3 of them have gone on to score 300 points again in the rest of their career. Those 3 wide receivers were Jerry Rice, Marvin Harrison, and Rod Smith. If you open up that threshold to 280 points again after their 300-point season, 8 of them went on to score 280 points again in their careers after their age 31 season. Those 8 are Randy Moss, Terrell Owens, Chris Carter, Reggie Wayne, Wes Welker, and Jimmy Smith. Now, I understand that Davante Adams is older, but if you were to put Davante Adams in his historic career in perspective, would you say he more aligns with Hall of Famers or with like your average Pro Bowler that ages out? What do you guys think?
Okay. My big issue with him is like is who's throwing him the rock still. Because
AP said he likes Aidan O'Connell, dude.
Because I know, like, your big, like one of your things was like he was in a historically bad offense. I don't know,
which could be
the same offense,
again.
which is my biggest thing. Like, I think Davante's
that's why his
insane
ADP is so low.
Yeah, and I think I like gambling on that, on the ADP and his price right now. But, and to your point, like we talked about, like being baked into it, I think the risk that they roll back out Aidan O'Connell and this is the same offense again next year is like, it's a very real possibility. But Davante Adams is.
Shaun, give me an example of somebody that you would sell or some like piece that you would sell to try and go out and buy Davante Adams. Like what would, especially if you're, because Davante Adams is, to my mind, like buying for a contending team.
He's a win now asset.
You maybe just missed playoffs or you got booted out of playoffs in the first round last year. You want to beef up your team for a run. What are you dumping to get Davante Adams? Like, what is a fair trade in your mind to acquire him?
Do you guys want to know? I'll answer your question, Aidan, but I'll answer your question with a question. Do you guys want to know who's currently going ahead of him right now in ADP on Sleeper?
Yeah.
Dalton Kincaid, Deshaun Watson, Jaden Reed, Deebo Samuel, Josh Jacobs, Saquon Barkley. Guys going around him, George Pickens, DeAndre Swift, Alvin Kamara.
Yeah, that's I'm taking Tay over most of those guys.
Yep. I would trade like DK Metcalf, and I would if I had DK Metcalf, I would get Davante Adams, maybe plus a second rounder or like a satellite running back like a Devin Singletary to acquire Adams. That's where I'm at. We're hoping someone like DK Metcalf could put up a season that Davante Adams has put up in their career. I would rather have Davante. I was looking at his historical context. The guy that he reminds me the most of at his specific age is Marvin Harrison, who at the age of 30 put up 384 fantasy points. Shout out Marvin Harrison. And then at age 31, and then at age 31, he scored 280 points. Harrison went on to score 300 points at the age of 34 again a couple years later. Like, he had 4 highly productive seasons after the age of 30, and Tay's already
there is a huge,
I think he's there.
There is like a huge piece of that though. Peyton Manning's not throwing him. Peyton Manning's not throwing him the football, which is like, again, I have huge concerns about him because of his QB situation. Marvin Harrison was awesome. I think if Peyton Manning is throwing Tay the rock, we're talking 300 easy, lock it in every year.
Okay, so will I say is Davante crushed with Aaron Rodgers. He crushed with Derek Carr. And then he had some monster blow-up weeks with Aidan O'Connell, but a lot of sprinkled in like bad performances because Aidan O'Connell wasn't that accurate. Yeah. I think even with Aidan O'Connell at quarterback, his ADP still, I think, is too low.
Yeah.
If you maybe get an upgrade at quarterback, you get a quarterback who's more capable of throwing the ball deep. Maybe Justin Fields ends up a Raider.
He's there.
I think you're in a situation. I probably not, but like, or even like Andy Dalton, dude. I'm telling you, like anything that's relatively average, I think Davante Adams' path to another 300-point season is there. He's competing with targets with Jacoby, who we really like. Yeah. And he's competing for targets with Michael Mayer, but that's it. Like, the offense still runs through him in terms of the passing game, and he's still an elite talent. He didn't really show signs of slowing down last year. His expected fantasy points were spectacular, and he just couldn't hit home. So I'm going to bet on regression and a future Hall of Fame talent. And future Hall of Fame talents usually avoid the age cliff longer. And I think Davante Adams has real viability of being a wide receiver 1 for the next 2 to 3 years. And you can get him at wide receiver 29 ADP. Sign me up. This looks a lot like Keenan Allen last offseason. It really does.
I agree. I agree at ADP. You keep getting me with like all these guys with like legit QBs though. I'm like, Keenan had Justin Herbert. I was like, the fade is silly, and I called that one. But yeah, no, I still like it at ADP. But
you can disagree with me if you want to disagree. Aidan, you're
I
good.
like it at price. But all the comps you keep doing are like this wide receiver tied to like elite QB play, and I'm like, I'm staring at Favre right now, and I'm like, I don't know, like, I'm having trouble, like, I'm right there with you, and then you bring up like these comps, and I'm like, oh, that's a step back, and then it's like, no, but he is too cheap. I think you bet on talent regardless of the situation, and just look at his production. Dude's a beast. That's definitely too, like when you read the players that are around him. What you're gonna take Dalton Kincaid over like Davante Adams? Like, no, like that's silly.
No
that's
way.
silly. The guys around him are not in the same league as Davante Adams.
He had some pretty good games in 2023 as well, too. Like, some blowups.
Totally.
But there was the stretch from week 14 to week 18, he was basically a double-digit fantasy player, except for week 16 against Kansas City. And he did squeak out, 1,100 yards last year with Aidan O'Connell. I could see it getting better with a year two Aidan O'Connell, but it is a massive bummer that is likely going to be his quarterback. But hey, maybe the discount's baked in. Maybe you get a cheap Davante Adams for your championship piece. And if Davante Adams is like your third, fourth wide receiver on your dynasty team, I think you're in pretty good shape. The last thing that you would want to happen is to be like the people that I know who traded for Cooper Kupp trying to do the same
here. That was unfortunate. He got hurt. Jesus.
Yeah,
dude.
well, Cooper Kupp was coming off an injury. Davante Adams was healthy last year. He's been healthy.
Yeah, he's just coming off a mental injury from having to play for the Raiders. But
he put up 38 points in week 17, I think, in the fantasy finals.
Yep.
He had a monster game. So he's still Davante Adams. He's still
I think it's a sneaky good buy, a situational buy for sure. Like I would not go out and buy him if I went 6-10 last year in the fantasy season, or what is it, 4-10?
Yeah.
So
if you're ready to compete, it's a great sell. I mean, it's a great buy, and if you're looking for additional assets, don't give it up too cheap just because he plays for the Raiders and Aidan O'Connell's his quarterback. Because I'm telling you, because he's still got it. I have a bonus buy before we get out of here. Yes, you like bonus buys?
He's the guy that moves like Davante Adams.
Bonus buy.
Tell him about the guy that moves like Tay.
Very different. He plays for Davante Adams' old team. Age 22. Current sleeper ADP 140. Wide receiver 44 on Keep Trade Cup. That is none other than Dontayvion Wicks. And Aidan had alluded to it. He kind of has the same release package off the line of scrimmage that Davante Adams does. It is silky, it is smooth, and he looks pretty nuanced as a route runner. He had an under-the-radar, incredibly impressive rookie season as a 6th-round draft pick in a crowded Packers passing core. 580 yards, 4 TDs, 40 receptions. From week 10 on, his numbers were fantastic. He averaged 56 yards per game, close to 3 yards per route run, so 2.93. He had a 14% target share. That was the second best on the team. They really spread it around. And he actually ran the 6th most routes. So his targets per route run was the second best on the team during this stretch. He finished the year with the 4th best PFF grade and yards per route run of every wide receiver in the 2023 draft class. And currently Gabe Davis, Quentin Johnston, Sam Howell, Kenny Pickett, Dalton Schultz, Chuba Hubbard, and Traylon Burks are going ahead of him. I would draft Dontayvion Wicks ahead of those guys pretty easily. I'd scoop him up.
Man, I would love to be able to trade my Traylon Burks shares for Dontayvion Wicks.
That would be pretty cool. Yeah,
go scoop him up.
He's too cheap. I think he's the best wide receiver in that room. I think Jaden Reed's got a lot of different fun movements, but in terms of full route tree and down the field, stretch the field receiver, Dontayvion Wicks, his route running is so crisp. Don't be surprised if he's their leading receiver next year.
I love it. That's 4. We got 4 buys here. We're buying Drake London. We're buying Najee Harris. We're buying Davante Adams. And we're buying Dontayvion Wicks. Does anyone have any bonus buys before we get out of here?
That's all. We like wide receivers. Sue us. So what?
Can you guys, I was wondering, can we buy a time machine and not relive Sunday? So the 49ers are never in the Super Bowl again. So I don't have to feel what that was.
I can't help you fund that, but
have one of those?
But I support you for that. I'll start the
if you have to ask, you can't afford it.
Yeah.
So
I'll start a GoFundMe for you.
We're buying new teams to root for.
No,
I'm buying a new hobby. I'm buying a new hobby. I might get into bird watching on Sundays next year. That's something I'm thinking about doing.
On your Theo Ash grind. Fellow bird watcher.
Is he really?
Yeah, he's a big bird watching guy.
I just threw that out there. No, what should I get into? Should I get into like pretending I know what I'm talking about with cars? Think, is that thing got a Hemi? Is that what I should do? Go to like some car shows? Like, wow, that's what is it, a 68 Corvette? I don't know. I'm just, just being a car guy.
That's what makes you feel something.
Yeah, whatever makes you feel alive.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. If you have not watched our Cells episode, you know what to do. Tune in. Until next time, everybody.